Welcome to Module 3, where we ask, how are cities addressing spatial inequality? The African Centre for Cities has been working on issues of inequality in Cape Town for well over 10 years. So we thought it would be useful to engage with this question through a case we are deeply familiar with. I start this module by explaining the intersecting features of multidimensional inequality. I show that inequality is not only about income and wealth. It has social, infrastructural, political, and cultural dimensions, and these come together in unique ways where people live. I move on to introduce a concept, spatial inequality, with reference to Cape Town, because it is indeed the paradigmatic example. Colonialism and apartheid deliberately promoted racial inequality, but paradoxically, in the post-apartheid era, efforts to pursue urban redistribution has worsened spatial inequality. We then introduce Arundam Jana, an economist working between the African Centre for Cities and the School of Economics at the University of Cape Town. His research focuses on the role of infrastructure provision and service delivery in perpetuating or mitigating spatial inequalities in cities of the Global South. Arundam will introduce the drivers of spatial inequality in Cape Town. I then return to look at the framing Arundam introduced in relation to land markets. I argue that access to land tenure security is one of the most important building blocks of an overall strategy to reverse patterns of inequality. In order to understand different perspectives on spatial inequality, we introduce Rob McGaffin, who has been affiliated to ACC for over 10 years and who has recently joined the City of Cape Town as Executive Director, Spatial Planning and Development. Rob will reflect on how the City of Cape Town thinks about spatial inequality and offer some suggestions how municipalities can play a role in addressing this problem. And so following from Rob, we introduce how civil society is responding to spatial inequality. Nobukosi Ngwenya introduces the case of Tafelberg in Cape Town. Nobu's research focuses on community-led planning, development and transformation of human settlements. Nobu provides an overview and background into contested land rights as exemplified in Tafelberg, showing the persistence of colonial and apartheid legacies in the configuration of the city, which impacts on citizens' mobility, housing, employment, and so on. We then turn to the perspectives of activists involved in the struggle for the Tafelberg case. We speak to Disha Govender, Head of Legal at Ndufuna Ukwazi, and Sheila Madikana, activist and leader of Reclaim the City. Disha will introduce the perspective of activists and reflections on the case. After we have heard from the experiences from the ground, we zoom out with Aditya Kumar. Adi is the Executive Director of Ndufuna Ukwazi, a Cape Town-based activist organization advocating for spatial justice and expanded access to well-located and affordable housing. Adi looks at what is at stake for housing more broadly in African cities. Adi also reflects on the role of state housing, title deeds, and ongoing conditions of displacement. In the last input for this module, we change format and host a discussion on spatial inequality and social development. Our three panelists are Alicia Fortuin, Ntiski Dulani, and Amy Wyman. Alicia is an ACC researcher and someone who has been instrumental in putting this course together. Alicia will be moderating the discussion. Ntiski Dulani is head of the Western Cape Organizing for Equal Education and reminds us of the importance of community knowledge systems, participation and organizing. Amy Wyman is also a researcher at the ACC who reflects on the social determinants of health and how living environments influence and shape access to health. The discussion highlights the multidimensionality of inequality and access to services like health and education and what can be done to reverse it.